This is an interview with Sara Ginaite-Rubinson on January 24, 2009 at the Virginia Holocaust Museum in Richmond, Virginia, conducted by Patty O'Connor and videotaped by Lindsay Stone. Could you please state your name and place of birth?
My name is Sara Ginaite-Rubinson. I was born in Kaunas, Kovno, Lithuania.
And how old are you?
I'm almost 55 years old.
55?
Almost.
Almost. And what year were you born?
How did I say?
55.
Oh my God, 85, I'm sorry.
It's okay, you feel 55.
I feel like 55, okay.
What languages do you speak?
I speak Lithuanian language, I speak Russian language. Both of these languages are my mother tongues. Now I speak English, far away from my mother tongue, and I understand Polish also. And I can speak a little bit Polish also. So this is... Yiddish I forgot to say, or I thought I don't remember. Yiddish, yes.
Okay. And where were you living before the Holocaust began?
I was a teenager. I attended a school. It was it was a special school. All the subjects were taught in Lithuanian language, but it was a school for Jewish children. And we had, together with the Lithuanian education, also Jewish education. In the school I learned Yiddish, Hebrew even a little bit, and religious. This was a subject we studied in the school, Jewish, connected with Judaism.
And tell me about your family before the Holocaust began.
I had one sister, mother, father, and my sister. And it was a middle-class Jewish family. My mother was graduated from a Polish school, and my father was studying engineering in Grenoble, France. So always at home we had a lot of books, and reading books, studying books, and I liked the subject which I liked in the school. First of all, sport, a lot of sport, and also I liked history. And in a way, despite that economics was never taught in our school, but I liked also I was very much interested in the economics. And we spent time like usually teenager, nothing special, nothing wrong, nothing special good. My sister was older than me, and after she was graduate from the same school, she went on studying in Belgium, Brussels. So I went with the mother to visit her in Brussels, and we went to Antwerp and also and other cities. I liked it, but I wanted to return to Kaunas to be with my friend, and we had a lot of relatives in Kaunas. And the trip had also another purpose. My father was thinking it was in 1937, 1938, maybe it is worth immigrating from Lithuania, because we understood, not me, but my parents, that it could not stay independent for a long time. Lithuania was an independent country in this period of time, that either Germans will occupy or the Soviet Union. But my mother, despite that she knew French, she spoke fluently, but she did not like also Belgium, because her mother was, her sister, brothers, all were in Kaunas. And when we returned, so there was not any more talk about immigration, to immigrate. I don't know what they thought, but not any more talking about it.
What was the predominant religion in your area?
Our family, my mother and my father was not religious, so I was brought out also not in a religious family. But my grandmother, from my mother's side, was very religious. My grandfather, he passed away, I don't remember him very well, but my grandmother was very religious. So in accordance to this, we sometimes visited the synagogue, which was on the same street, and all Jewish holidays we spent together with my grandmother. Passover, all the seders, only matzah, and so on. So the traditions in our family was very nice observed.
And most of the Lithuanians were of what religion?
Lithuanian Jews or in general?
In general.
In general, they are Catholics, Roman Catholics. Lithuanians and the Jews are Judaism, who observe the religion.
Before the war, did being a Jew have more of a religious significance to you or a cultural significance, or both?
I would say cultural significant, more cultural and traditional, but less religious.
And did that viewpoint ever change for you?
No.
Did you have many non-Jewish friends before the war?
Very little, very little. I think that it is unfortunately, but it is a reality, and about this I am writing also in my book. Because I attended a Jewish school. We were very close, had very close friends with the Jews in our school, and I don't remember now exactly, it seems to me that in Kovno, a small city relatively, was 7 Jewish schools. So we had friends not in our school, but in different schools, and all kind of parties, so you went from one school to the other school, and you met only Jewish people. So you didn't have much chance, possibility to meet not Jews. But, so only the last time when the Soviet occupied Lithuania, so this year, 1941, our school was liquidated, and we were joined, not that we joined, but we were joined with another school, very strange, really very strange, with a pure Catholic school, boys' school. So I don't know what kind of marriage it was. But this was decided, and we were, the Jewish girl were not upset, because suddenly we met a lot of nice boys. It was only for the boys' school. And then I befriended some Lithuanians, or the first time that I was much more closer with Lithuanians, but still it was not friends like you imagine, teenager friends.
What experiences did you have with anti-Semitism before the war?
Not much. I was very young. I was a girl, not a boy. I did not participate, in the streets, like when you meet the... We lived in a mixed area, in a middle-class mixed area in downtown of Kaunas. And I personally did not feel. I didn't feel, only in my book I'm writing from the sources of others, not my own, let's say, feeling, if to talk about the feelings. Despite that it existed, without doubt that it existed, anti-Semitism. But I personally, let's make this way, I personally did not feel it. Because of my surroundings, my environment, my way of life, my style of life.
How old were you when the Russians took control of your country?
Waited it for 16 years.
And can you describe what happened in your country, how your life changed when the Russians were there?
It changed, without any doubt. It changed. I would say even it changed a lot. First of all, the school was closed. So suddenly, despite that some girls went, or some classmates went also to the Catholic, formal Catholic school, but not too many went. So it changed the environment of the school. Then a new subject. I was in the last grade. The last grade I had to finish to graduate next year. So suddenly was introduced new subject. Let's say first of all that I was angry of the new subject was history and geography. I didn't like geography, and suddenly I had to study. We had to study the Russian Soviet Union geography. And even we had in Lithuanian language composed a poem about our teacher, geography, which we hated. And I remember is a poem, but it is in Lithuanian language. Secondly, the history changed, the historical approach. We were a little bit brought out, a little bit nationalistic, not too much, not about Jews, but about Lithuanians, because everything was in Lithuanian language. To like this country, to love this country, and suddenly the approach, historical approach, changed, so we didn't like this either. Beside our parties, we had always in the school, we had always free parties, very interesting parties without parents. Most likely that the parents came, but we have not seen them. They did not interfere in our dancing. And here suddenly came official people to look at us, how our behavior and so on. So I always like to protest maybe or to criticize. So I was, since at home we were, in our family we spoke Russian language, so I knew very well Russian language and I knew very well Russian literature. And the person outside who came was a young woman. Somebody sent her from, I don't know where from, and a military man, both with Russians, with Russian uniform. And they danced the whole time. So I found a poem not written by me. And suddenly I stopped dancing and I told this poem, I can say you. Толстой, ты доказал с терпением и талантом, что женщине не следует танцевать ни с камер-юнкером, ни с лейтенантом, когда она жена и мать. It means that Tolstoy, the classic of Russian, had proved. About Anna Karenina, you proved that a married woman doesn't have to dance with a military man. So she was very upset and she didn't come anymore to our parties. But I didn't go either because it was not interesting. The school was very far away from where we lived. Besides, we had to leave our apartment under the Soviets, yes, communism, and then we got another apartment, much smaller and not so convenient, not so comfortable. I did not have my room myself, and they put in our apartment a Russian family, 2 people. But then the military also. But then they decided to leave, not to stay without. But this room, they said to me, since I spoke fluently Russian, that I can use myself. Still, this room belonged to them, but that I can use it. So I became very friendly to them. But still, I had to sleep in my living room. So all the environment was very tense, I would say, very tense. It was not relaxation. So this kind of change occurred.
Was your father... After a slight pause to correct a problem with our microphones, we are resuming our interview with Sara Ginaite-Rubinson.
Oh.
Did your father, was your father able to retain his job after the Russians?
No, my father had a small business, and no, he could not retain the business, had to be liquidated. And sometime he was without the job. So it was very upset for the family. But then he obtained a job for a short time, and in January the Russians came in June. And in January he became very sick. He got cancer. And he was dying, and he passed away. He died already in the ghetto. So in January he was sick. In March approximately they found out what it was. In May he went through surgery, and August 25th he died in the ghetto, and he was buried in the ghetto.
Now, were you in the ghetto when the Russians were there, or after the Nazis
No, nothing
took over?
to do with the Russians. So the war against the Soviet Union began on June 21st, 1941. And already the second day, the 22nd, the Russians left already. The Germans did not come yet, or we have not seen the Germans yet, but the terror against the Jews began from the very first day of the war.
And who was it who was going against the Jews before the Germans even arrived?
It looked like it was. The Lithuanians are saying now that it is not true, that the Germans were already, the intelligence war, the Gestapo came, but we have not seen not one German soldier the first few days, and not assessment or other people we have not seen, and all the terror, which was, I don't say organized, but most likely organized, but perpetrated only by the Lithuanians. From the very beginning, not only in Kaunas, but in Kaunas also, I saw it with my own eyes, but all over Lithuania. So this is the beginning of the terror. It was a terrible terror in Kaunas. And we did not try to evacuate, to go to Russia, because my father was dying. And my grandmother was also very sick. And my mother didn't know what to do. We could not move. And my mother wanted me, at least to save me, because I was attending a Lithuanian school. But I said that I am not going anywhere without the family. I will stay with the family. So we did not try even to evacuate. And in a few days, less than in a few days, this I am repeating time and again. not in my presentation, but in my interview, that the janitor came in one of our not my mother, father, but our relatives' building, apartment, and arrested without any reason or without any logic, because we were not communists, we were absolutely not communist, and even part of our family, our relatives, were deported to the Siberia, and still in the apartment one room was closed and was written by the Russians not to touch. So if they came like communists, we could not be the communists because part of the relatives were deported. But they did not care about anything. They arrested all the men, 5 men, and shot them directly this very moment in the court of this building. And among these 5 men were 3 my uncles, 3 my mother's brothers. And the next day my grandmother died. She could not take it. So this, in a few days, my brother-in-law, my sister was already married. My brother-in-law was arrested. And he was arrested and brought to the 7th fort. And it was not a concentration camp or a prison. It was a pure killing site. And my sister managed, I'm describing how it was, my sister managed to take him out from this, it was a miracle. To take him out from the 7th fort to save his life, and altogether on the 7th fort, during 1 week was killed about 3,000 Jews from Kovno. During last 5 days, 6 days. So this was a terror from the beginning, and then was one pogrom, maybe 2 pogroms, it is always controversial.
And explain what a pogrom is.
I cannot in English so cross it at all.
Okay.
Without the pogrom it is.
Okay. So there was massive killing.
Mass killing, I would say that mass killing, I don't remember now the number, how many Jews were killed. In my book it is written, but I forgot now the number, how many Jews were killed during first 2 weeks. I would say 2 weeks, maybe less than 2 weeks. I don't remember the number, only in Kaunas, in Kovno, officially. Not my calculation and not other calculation, but officially number how many Jews were killed during the first 2 weeks, let's say, of not occupation, but beginning of the war.
Then what happened when the Nazis actually occupied your country?
It was not the Nazis. I would say that later on came the German administration. This I would say. That occupation was Germany. You see, this is a specific whole story about Lithuania. When the Russians, the Soviets, left, or even half a day before they left, it started some kind of uprising of the Lithuanians against the Russians. We have not seen this uprising, but the Lithuanian historiography are stated. Let's be that it was an uprising. And they together with the uprising, let's say, they started to terrorize and to kill the Jews. maybe not everyone who participated in the uprising, who were the partisans, how they called themselves, participated in killing the Jews. I don't say it, I don't know. But everyone who killed the Jews was a partisan. Not every partisan killed the Jews, but everyone who killed the Jews was a partisan. So now when the Russians were out, the Soviets were out, so Lithuania formed a provisional government, Lithuanian provisional government. It was everything already decided and formed in Germany by the Lithuanian ambassador, former ambassador. He organized not the uprising, but the provisional government. So it seems to me, the date I don't remember now, but it seems to me that either the war started June 21st. So in June 23rd, seems to me, that the Lithuanians took over the radio and proclaimed that Lithuania is independent and formed a provisional government. Provisional government with, and the prime minister, let's say, was somebody, doesn't matter the name, it's written in a very detailed way about it in my book. And then started all kind of the orders, not from the Germans, but from Lithuanians. But the Germans, from the beginning, they accepted, not officially, but de facto they accepted, because they needed somebody who would take care against, let's say, counter-uprising. But later, when the German administration came, no, the Nazis, the administration came, immediately they ordered to liquidate, to cancel this provisional government, and it was imposed already, the German administration, the German de facto power. It lasted approximately 3 weeks, and I am in a very detailed way, day after day, hour after hour, describe what happened during the 3 weeks. Later on, I am not interested in this, in describing what happened with the Jews. I am interested but the relationship, let's say, between the Lithuanians and the Jews, because after 3 weeks, in reality, the Lithuanians lost the power. They did not have to say what to do with the Jews, but these 3 weeks, it was the power. And then, after the 3 weeks, the Lithuanians were only the perpetrators of the killings. They did not give the orders, but they were the perpetrators. And it is not only by me written, it is officially written by the truthful Lithuanian historians. It is published all the protocols of the provisional government. It is published all the protocols of local police, how many Jews they killed, or how many Jews were killed in this location, and so on. So it is official. So I was much more interested not to show the atrocities, but to show the role which the Lithuanians played during the 3 weeks.
Were there any Lithuanians that you felt you could go to for help? Was there any resistance by the Jews?
This period of time was no resistance, and since we did not have friends, Lithuanians, so we did not have where to live. And even more, after we were expelled from our apartment under the Soviets, we moved in a pure Lithuanian district. And despite that we were the only Jews in a very big district, immediately the neighbors, maybe not from our new apartment neighbor, but around, somebody told already the militia, during the 3 weeks, I mean, that here is a Jewish family. You see, so where could you go? Where could you go? Our family, we didn't have where to go. Period.
And where did you go?
We didn't go anywhere. We relied on the Germans, I mean, because the Germans started to talk to the Jews. They organized, or they talked, you know. They formed a Judenrat, a Jewish committee, and they said that you see how the Lithuanians are against you, so, and that you are not safe. So you will go to the ghetto, and there you will only work, nothing more, and you will be safe from the Lithuanians. So we did not have any experience, and we could not have any experience. It is bad. We knew that the Germans, the Nazis are terrible, but that they are going to kill everyone, this such a nightmare could not, come to our, could not cross our mind. So it was the order immediately after the 3 weeks to move to a district, a closed district, a very Jewish district, to move, and it was the ghetto. So and until so they gave us a month or a little bit more than a month to move to the ghetto. So the ghetto was closed, let's say, on August the 15th, and we were isolated from the outside world, and all kind of all new orders, humiliating orders were imposed upon us. Barbered fence with guard, and after 10 days my father passed away, so that was August 25th. And since my mother's brother was killed, so his wife and the child, we moved together. So we were in one room, my mother and I, and the child and my mother's sister-in-law, 4 people.
What were you allowed to take into the ghetto?
I didn't hear.
What were you allowed to take into the ghetto?
Formally, we were allowed very little, but in general, you could take your belongings, not furniture, one chair or 2 chairs, but the belongings, a lot of belongings. Formally, it was forbidden, but nobody checked. But when we were already closed in the ghetto, then started that all the gold, all the silver, all the money, all the furs, everything was confiscated. Everything had to be brought to return to give to the Germans, confiscated, whatever.
And how old were you at this point?
17 years.
Were you supplied with any food or water or any necessities?
Tomorrow I will talk about it in my presentation. But a little bit food, very little, less than minimum. We were supplied. But there was a black market, like always, and since we did not try to evacuate, so all the belongings came in the ghetto with us. Besides, my father passed away, so we had all his clothing. So the first year we tried to change what we had for food.
Did you have to work outside the ghetto?
Yes, I worked from the very beginning. My working life began as a slave laborer in the first year in the airport, aerodrome, but later I got a better job. I was working like a cleaning woman in a German hospital. Sometimes I was working in a farm, agricultural farm. Different jobs, all outside the ghetto. Or most of them outside the ghetto. Let's make this way. Most of them outside the ghetto.
And how were you treated
By whom?
when you were in the different places with the slave labor?
Depends on, in the first, as a slave laborer, terrible. As slaves, absolutely. Worse could not be. But in hospital already was more or less acceptable, and in the farm was also acceptable, I would say.
Did any selections take place?
The first selection was very soon, the terror. The terror in the ghetto also began despite of the promises that you will only work and you will be safe. The terror, I would say, by the Nazis began also from the very first day. Very soon they required 500 educated people, only men, to work in archive. And it was only the beginning. It was 2-3 weeks in the ghetto. So the people thought, okay, in archive is not bad. And even then came to the ghetto gate, not 500, but 534. And they asked that they want, maybe they could take more. So they agreed. And for sure they were killed somewhere. We don't know where even the killing site took place. So then was the so-called big action, like we are calling it, which happened on October 28, 1941. This was a selection. This was the first, was not a... Yes, I am sorry, but when there was they liquidated a small ghetto. The ghetto was divided in 2 parts, and it was a bridge like in the Middle Ages which joined the 2 parts. And but we lived in the big ghetto. So, and the small ghetto was liquidated. Then the Germans burned the one hospital, the infection hospital. So this was everything before the big action. And on October 28, 1941 was a big action, so-called, the selection. All the population of the ghetto, it was about 30,000. I think that now I'm thinking that it was less than 30,000, must be 28,000, most likely, about between 28 and between 25 and 28,000. All the population had together on a square. Here is in this museum is shown the square, democratic square within the ghetto, and to be there 7 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock, I don't remember exactly, and then 8 o'clock in the morning the selection began. It was by the Gestapo men led by Helmut Rauke. And interesting is that Helmut Rauke in 1950 immigrated to Canada, became a Canadian citizen, and lived in Ontario, in a small city in Ontario, had a hotel, owned a hotel for the tourists. And only in 1981 he was arrested and deported to Germany, to the West Germany, and he died, I don't know what was the condition, in the prison, but very soon, half a year after he was deported to Germany. So the same Helmut Rauch. And so it began the selection, and he decided who should die today and who will die who can live a little bit longer. And we were in the ghetto only 3 months. Really, we did not have, we did not organize ourselves, any kind of resistance, how to behave in such extreme circumstances, how to behave in such nightmare. He sent, he was very calm, I would say. I remember very well, not this moment when he approached our let's say place, or we went through him, this I don't remember, but in general very systematical, like the Germans did always, very calm, and in order, to avoid any resistance or any panic, sometimes to the good side, he sent big families with children or with elder people, that the other could not hint what does it mean. And sometimes even the young people, workers, he sent to the bedside, not to panic. And this election lasted the whole day. And then the people who were sent to the bedside, they were immediately taken by the Lithuanian police, and in the groups they were led to the small ghetto. The small ghetto was liquidated, but still the fence existed. And the next day, on October 29th, I saw, I saw it is like a picture or a view that I will never forget in my life. Really, I will never. It is still I see it still. Our family was alive. Nobody was taken this day. We were permitted to live longer. So I went to the outhouse outside, and I saw a mass of people. It was from the small ghetto, but you have not seen the small ghetto. But I saw a mass of people, dark, a mass of dark, because it was early, 7 o'clock, it was October, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and the 9th fort is going up, hill up, and you could not see not the beginning and not the end of the mass, led by Lithuanian police and dogs. And moving. And this day, 9,200 Kaunas Jews were killed, shot by the Lithuanian police on the 9th fort. Among them, 4,000 children. And when I saw it, I decided, no, I will take the fate in my own hand. I was young, but it was not romantic and it was not idea. It was a real decision that I have to resist, that I have to find and be accepted in any underground organization. Doesn't matter which one, any underground organization. And I started to look the possibilities, and really in a short time, 3-4 months, I was accepted to the anti-fascist fighting organization that was led by a young Jewish writer, Chaim Yelin. His picture is here also shown. And so my life changed. There I was acquainted and fall in love with my future husband, Misha Rubinson, the love of my life, which passed away very young, even less than 53 years, in Lithuania in 1977. And and he was the leader, Misha Rubinson. He was a leader of the young branch of this organization, and had a lot of function in this organization, very different functions. And he was one of the person who formed this organization. So this is how began my resistance life.
So what things did you do as part of the resistance while you were still in the ghetto?
I personally, it seems to me, I don't know how, that I didn't do too much from the beginning. You know, like ordinary, to go to the meetings, to talk to people, to explain, but nothing special. Then two things happened to me. One thing that I was most likely stupid. When I worked in the German hospital, under the mattress, I found a rifle. And I was so happy. I found a rifle. I covered it with a rag. I put it in my somewhere. I put it to take with me. Put over it potatoes. It should not be seen what is inside. And I decided to bring this rifle in the ghetto. And when we approached the ghetto gate, so I was not anymore so happy about it, but I started to think what I am doing. So I went a little bit back, not to think what to do, and to wait. I waited half an hour or what, I let other people go through the gate, and then I saw that I cannot wait any longer, so I took the risk. I went to the Jewish policeman, who was not the best friend of a Jewish policeman, but was not the best one. He was on the gate, and everyone was very afraid of him, but I was not afraid. I went to him and I said in a whisper to him, "Listen, I am very treif." You know what it means in Yiddish? Treif is not kosher, if you know what is kosher. I said to him, and he started to yell at me, "Oh, you, what are you?" to grab me and to push me through the gate without control. So I was lucky as I was alive. And I knew where our leader was, Chaim Yelin, so I grabbed, I was happy, I ran to him to give him the rifle. And he said, "Okay, don't do it anymore. We have, if you will find another rifle, we have a secret apartment outside the ghetto, and your husband, it was not yet my husband, we know a friend, he will tell you what to do." And then he looked at me, and I was not looking very Jewish. I was a blonde, very blonde, and not brown eyes, but green eyes. And my Lithuanian was excellent, and I attended the Lithuanian school. So he said that I forbid you to do anything to sabotage or to be active in the organization, because I have for you another job. And then the job came, and I had to go outside the ghetto to smuggle out the ghetto and to take out all the signs, the star, and to go to Lithuanians, the address which he gave me, not he or somebody else gave me, and with all, and to talk to them and to find out. My assignment was mostly to get information, but this is prepared, the information. They had only to send the information and to pass them the information. And besides, to have a chat with them, find out maybe they know something about partisans. Where can we find the partisans? So this was how I was always. I had early to put on my old dresses, to walk on the main street in Kaunas, and to fulfill this assignment. So this is which I did, and which I did before joining the partisans.
What kind of ID card did you have?
No idea. I had, if somebody would ask me for identification card, I would have to say that I am Jewish, but I want to buy food, to exchange. This is my something. I had always something. And I am going to the Lithuanians to see if I can my blouse, whatever it is, to exchange for food. So it was not, it was very dangerous. They could kill me, but maybe not. It depends. But I was never arrested, never. It was a story, a lot of stories, but a lot of experience, a lot of stories, which I describe in my book.
And did people, were people smuggled out of the ghetto and remained out of the ghetto, or did people keep going back and forth like you did on different?
It depends who had to go where. Went out and didn't return. But most people went out, maybe to buy something, to barter something, or to other things to do in the city, and came back. It was not easy. I don't say that it was easy, but it was not so complicated. Much more complicated was to find a place where to go, which Lithuanian Gentile would take you or help you, but not to smuggle from the ghetto. It was risky to smuggle from the ghetto, but...
Did you find very many Gentile Lithuanians who were willing to help you?
I found one person who helped me. Not me, but who helped to save this child which lived with us. And she was, for a long time, our housekeeper. And my father helped her a lot. She didn't want anymore to be a housekeeper, so he lent her money or gave her money to buy a small kiosk and to sell newspapers, tobacco, and so on and so on. So she was very grateful, and she brought me up. She was by 10 years our housekeeper, and she said that she will help the child, and she saved the child, and she got the righteous in Yad Vashem.
Were very many children saved that way by being smuggled out of the ghetto?
I didn't smuggle out, my sister smuggled. This girl smuggled out my sister. She smuggled it out. I was already in the partisans, but I gave the address, everything, my connection. It was used my connection.
Do you know if other children were smuggled out?
Yes, now is a lot of books about this. A lot of books are written in Lithuanian, in English. Every year some books are published about the children, and not a lot children were smuggled out, but a lot of books are written about it.
Explain what a partisan is, different from what you were doing already as a resistor.
The partisan, we lived in the forest, in a camp, detachment, it was a pro-Soviet, that we went like gorillas, like the gorillas are doing, to fight the enemy in any possible way.
So you were assisted by a Soviet?
Yes, by Soviet. Not assisted, but it was directed by the Soviet. By the Soviet, yes.
Were the Soviets former prisoners of war, or were they just from the area?
The leadership were from airborne. They will send from Moscow. Lithuanians, originally Lithuanians, communist, devoted communist. Mostly. Some were local Russians, very little. And some were Jews escaped from the Vilnius ghetto.
Was partisan activity widespread in the area? Were there many partisans?
In our, it was called Rudnitsky Forest. It was over 2,000 around in many detachments, not only our detachment. In our detachment was approximately 200. Most of them were inmates from escapee from the ghetto, Russian former prisoners of war, a few local Poles, a few local Russians. 15% of us were women.
I'm just going to ask you that. Were there any children out there at all?
No.
With 200 partisans out there, were you in individual small groups? How did you live and survive?
I don't know how it is called. Special like a tent, but inside it was built a tent, and about 30 people lived in one tent. 30 people, so yes. I don't remember exactly, 30 or 20, maybe 30.
And what was your main task when you became part of the partisans?
Again.
What was your main duty? What did you do?
Everything in the partisan, everything. From peeling potatoes to going to going to a battle, to surround the local police, to everything everything we did, and everyone personally had a special, like some kind of division. It was intelligence. My husband was in the intelligence group. So he had to go to talk to the local people to find out a lot of things. I was sent back to ghetto with 4 more people. So 4 nights we went 100 miles from the Rudnitsky to the ghetto. It was very cold. It was the first days of January. It was very cold, like today in Toronto or Montreal. Snowing, and we went and we smuggled into the ghetto. We had to meet our leadership and to pass them some kind information and to restore the connection. And I stayed in ghetto for 3 weeks with my mother again, with my sister. And my mother was very nervous. She thought that they got my letter. They were so happy through this person, housekeeper. that I was safe and now why I came. So I said, don't worry, everything okay. I tried to help them, but unfortunately nothing worked. And during the liquidation of the ghetto, in the beginning of July 1944, end of June and beginning of July 1944, the Kaunas ghetto was liquidated, and my family was, rest of my family was deported to Germany, and survived only my sister and my sister's husband. And perished my husband's family, his father, his sister, Lipa Rubinson father, sister Sonia Rubinson, my mother Rebecca Gin, the mother of the child. The child survived, the mother of the child was perished in the ghetto. So that's it.
What were some of the acts of sabotage that was done by the partisans?
In the ghetto was sabotage. In partisan you don't do sabotage, you kill, you struggle, you battle. What kind of sabotage can you do in ghetto? You can, or when you were working for the Germans you can sabotage, but it is a military, like a military unit.
And how did you get food and weapons and other supplies?
How we get food? We had to mostly we had to confiscate from the villagers. Sometimes we confiscated during a battle from the Germans. Let's say the train or the cart with a horse was. So we tried all kind of many ways to get the food, but mostly, unfortunately, we had to take from the villagers. And they were angry, but this is a war. And we had to eat. We could not survive not eating.
Did you fear any retaliation by these villagers? Did they tell the Germans about you? Did the Germans go into the forest and try to find you?
They tried, yes, they tried. In general, they tried only once. But the forest was a very big forest and started in Lithuania and went on in Belarus. And they did not, it was 1944, they did not have the power anymore, and they were not interested. The soldiers also wanted to survive, and the Nazis never wanted to go to the battlefield. So once they got an order, so they went, they tried. They didn't find anybody. So in 1942 maybe would be different in 1943, but in 1944.
Were there any particular problems for you as a woman being with the partisans?
No, I would say, also tomorrow I will talk about it, that I did not feel any discrimination. And since our detachment was led by in a Soviet way, so the women were equal. And they did not oppose that the women should participate in battles, in military actions. So from this point of view, I think that we did not feel any discrimination. We were young, we were brave, we fitted excellent, and we wanted to fight the enemy. Really, believe me, that our goal, our aim when we came to the partisans was not to survive, but not to take revenge, but really to fight the enemy, to resist, to fight the enemy. So I would say, they existed for sure, the century-long division between the men's world and the women, for sure. They wanted the men, and we accepted it, that we needed to peel the potatoes, and you are free to peel the potatoes, make the cooking, and some other household assignments, let's say. But in general, and everyone wanted to be a fighter. But there were maybe some women who did not oppose to stay in the camp, not take any responsibility, and to stay and to cook. So this is my approach to the woman problem in our detachment. This is why tomorrow I will tell a few words that 15% were women, and no discrimination, really no discrimination. And there are some assignments that the women are better, could do this job better than the men. I went with 4 boys to the ghetto, returned. And this assignment I got from the leader of all these 2,000 partisans, not from our detachment. And he wanted a woman, because in case of something, the woman can manage better than the man, and he was right. When we approached Kovno, so we did not know how to go into Kaunas and how to go into the ghetto. And we were told that be very cautious, because the Germans are looking for the men who don't want to go to the army. They can stop you anyway. So we had the 4 of us, 5 of us, started what to do. And one of us said that he knows that not far from here is working a Jewish brigade. Jewish people are working, not like a slave laborer. Maybe to go there and to pretend that we are Jews. But how to pretend, how to go from where we are at daytime to the place, and they are guarded. So we decided that I will be like a nurse, a German. I know German language, I forgot. I knew that one more language, German language. Because in our school, German was a second language, not English, but German was a second language. I didn't dress myself, but I pretend to be a German nurse. And there was already a concentration camp, for a working camp outside the ghetto, not far from Kaunas. So I have to pretend that I brought 4 sick Jews with me, and let them into, and in the evening will come the car to pick up the other Jews, so they will go to the ghetto. And it worked very well. I went without the men. They stayed not far from me. And I talked to him in German, that I am a German, local German. And I started to flirt with them, to make a romantic, that how interesting he is, and I would like him to meet. And he said, "Oh, it's such a pity of you that you have to work with the Jews." I said, "What can I do? This is my work. I am a nurse. But after you will let them in, I will come out, I will be free, and we can spend the evening together." So he said to me, "Okay, bring the men as fast as possible." So I brought the men, all 5 of us, and we talked already, the men, the Jews. he understood who we are, and he was very afraid, and he put us in some place and changed a little bit our outlook, and we had all the pistols, the guns small we had, the revolvers. And what about me? So he asked the woman to give me a coat and changed absolutely that he should not recognize me. And he started to ask the leader, the Jews, where are the nurses? So that she was in a rush. She went through the other door. You have not seen her. She was speeding. She had to go. I don't know where. It's not how she promised me, and so maybe she will come tomorrow. And this is. So you are asking the assignments. Can it be told every assignment? Or so some says that this was my assignment. Every moment was a different assignment in the ghetto. Every moment was a different assignment in the partisans.
Were you afraid when you were carrying out those assignments?
I was afraid twice. Once when I was afraid when I brought the rifle, and the second time when I was in the ghetto. In this case, I came in the ghetto and I saw the fence and everything, you know, and it was night and I was so afraid, scared. I thought, no, I'm not staying here. And it seemed to me that the meeting with my mother and my sister is not so important. I'm going out from the ghetto, I'm going back. I came from a freedom in a difficult life, but a free life. But later on, I managed to talk to myself that I have to fulfill this assignment and slow down my emotions. So I was afraid. Twice I was in my life afraid. It was more afraid. I was described also one more time when I was afraid. And if it's the last question so I will tell the story, but because I'm tired already.
Well, let me just ask you, what happened when the Germans left Lithuania because the Soviets were coming, the Germans were losing?
No, we were our partisans, all the 2000, participate in liberation of the Vilnius. So we didn't have to do. Only we participated. We joined the military unit, and we participate together with the Red Army, liberating the Vilnius. This is a photo. How came this photo? By liberating the Vilnius. So I participated in liberating the Vilnius.
What was Kovno like when you went back, when the war ended?
No, the war ended, but the liberation, because the war ended a year. Very bad. Not scared, but very bad. Worse could not be. Worse could not be. It was a second shock in my life. Because from the beginning, in my head, 18 years old, I was only how I will come with a gun to the ghetto. All my imagination was to come to the ghetto with a gun. And Vilnius was liberated in July 13th. And we thought that in a few days will Kaunas be liberated, but Kaunas was liberated only on August the 1st. And the destruction in reality of ghetto was, my family was deported on July, they left Lithuania, let's say, on July the 12th, a day before Vilnius was liberated. So later when we participated in the battle for Vilnius, So a Soviet soldier with the partisans, with a few partisans, with my husband and a few more partisans, we wanted to help. So he did not let me in. He said, "You are a woman, stay here and let the men go." So I stayed, and the men returned all, and it was finished with this kind of battle. And somebody, I don't know who, came and gave me flowers. And this moment I thought, why should I come to the ghetto with flowers? With a gun, better to come with flowers. And I was waiting only the moment when Kaunas will be liberated and I will meet everyone. And I was working already in the Ministry for Education. And when I went to the ministry and asked him the permission, the second day, August the 2nd, August the 1st was Kaunas liberated. And I went to him and I begged, let me go to Kaunas. And so he permitted me, the first one. And when I came, here is a picture. It was still burning. You cannot imagine, when I went in the ghetto, I left the ghetto the second time in the middle of the February. March, April, May, June, 4 or 5 months. And what I saw, the full destruction, and the bodies of the people were burned who did not refuse to be deported. It was a terrible. And then I met the housekeeper, and she said to me that all your family is deported. I know exactly, but the child is alive. And the child did not recognize me. And I started to talk, don't recognize, I am Sara. No, I don't recognize. And she was speaking the Lithuanian language. And I didn't know about anybody. Then only, in 1945, already in May, when all the end of the war, then I found out that my sister survived and my mother did not survive. And my sister did not return to the Soviet Union, and she passed away, my sister, 2 years ago. And her daughter found the letters which I have written to her in 1947, 36, 37, and in one letter I am writing that my life is so miserable, that I don't have anybody, and that I don't want to live anymore, that since I lost everybody, so the life doesn't have a sense for me. And I have all these letters, not all of them. And I'm still trying, maybe to write something. Maybe it's not worth writing. I don't know. Anyway, this is the end. And my end would be that Holocaust doesn't have a happy ending, even if you survived.
Did you remain in Kovno after that? Did you stay in Lithuania?
I stayed in Lithuania, but I sat with my husband together, because his family also, together, that we will never return to Kaunas. And everyone now who visit Lithuania, let's say, everyone, he doesn't have any sentiments to Vilnius, because Vilnius belonged to Poland. You see, but his life was in Kaunas, and he is interested to go to Kaunas. And I hate Kaunas. You cannot say it, but I hate Kaunas. I go very seldom to Kaunas, when I visit Lithuania very often. But Kaunas is for me, whenever I go to Kaunas, I don't see anything else. I see only the ghetto. And the family and everyone whom I lost. And very interesting, I was a few years ago, and I decided to go to see the apartment from where we went to the ghetto, because I mentioned to you that it was a pure Lithuanian district. It was not a Jewish district. And it survived, it looked the same, a very beautiful district, a lot of trees and small houses, but it is in downtown. So I went, and somebody from my company took pictures. So a young man, not a young man, I would say, less than the middle age, went by and asked, very polite, what are you doing? He saw that I am not, came from another country. How I was dressed, how I was feeling like a free person, you know. And I thought, you know, I lived here many years ago. So that I was very young, I don't remember anybody. But my mother must remember you. Maybe do you want to talk to my mother? I will call her immediately and come in. We would like to talk to you. I didn't want to say, you asked me how the neighbors were. So I didn't, she came down. She was not younger than me. She was elder than me. And she said to me that she doesn't remember the family. It was a two-floor building. So only they lived and we, no more neighbors. And I said to her that we lived here. Oh, I don't remember who lived here. How can you not remember? We went to the ghetto from here. I said to her, we were expelled by the Germans. I don't remember you. Come in, I want to talk to you. She said to me, I don't want to. So why you don't want to see? So I said, this house belongs to you. It doesn't belong to me. I thought, yes, it belongs to me. So you can now, you can get it back. So I don't want to get it back. And that's it. So this was when I went to Kaunas. So what kind of positive feelings can I have toward Kaunas?
Then where did you go to live, and what did you do after the liberation?
After liberation, the life was very difficult also. We did not have money, we did not have possession, we did not have anything. When I went the first day to my work, so, you know, the ministers, they were all the communists, and they saw the Soviet partisan, very honorable people. And he asked me, why did you come with a pants? That I don't have a skirt to my work. I came with pants. It is not this now that updated, modern, but women were not wearing pants. I said, I don't have a skirt. So, and this was a period of time when they got, not the government, the country, a lot of American gifts. So immediately he asked me gave me an order to receive a skirt, to buy a skirt. So the life was very difficult, and the moral, you know, to lose everyone, the whole family to lose. And many people, many Jews returned from the evacuations, the whole family with grandparents, and I was envious. I'm a person not envy. I don't care about others. From this point of view, he has more, it's okay. But this is that they have the whole family, and we did not have. My husband lost the whole family, and I lost the whole family. So it was very difficult to overcome. But I started to study, and I was graduated, and the life went on. It is not easy. It was not easy but it went on. But everything is not easy. I will tell you something, and really this is the last. I don't want anymore to talk. I will tell you something, that in Lithuania, I achieved a lot. I was a full professor. I formed my own economic school about consumption. And I had a lot of graduate students. I am coming now to still I have my students, very close friendship with my students, former students. Now they are grandfathers themselves. And I had a very beautiful apartment, a high salary, and all privileges, not like governmental privilege, but a lot of privilege, having this position. And I had to leave everything and to go to a strange country like Canada with a bad English. A little bit I knew English. I never studied after. In Canada I did not study English. I didn't learn, English. And to lose everything without anything, with $10 that we could, or $15 we could change, and a little bit, the belongings. You could take a little bit belongings, a little bit furniture, but later on I had to pay for it here. And to come, my daughter was already with her husband. They came, and my sister was not very well off. Less than less a little bit than middle class, but not an upper middle class. So she could not help me. And my daughter immigrated only 2 years ago, and a child was born, and we came 4 people, grown-up people, a burden for my sister. Not sister, but my daughter. She lived in Ottawa, and she rented for us an apartment, and she had to pay for this apartment, for their small salary. And this apartment was terrible. After I lived myself in such a beautiful apartment, and I could get even better apartment, but since I was planning already or thinking about immigration, so I decided meanwhile I will stay here. I would like to change, I can always change it. And without any perspective to get a job, absolutely with my profession, a teacher, not knowing the language. And so what I did, I cried. Half a year I cried. I was looking for a job. I wanted to be a dishwasher. So I went and I asked for the job, and they answered me, "You don't have Canadian experience to be a dishwasher." Any perspective to get a job. And I changed my name. I was always Ginaite. Then I turned in Rubinson because Ginaite is very well known. So I decided for time being not to be Ginaite. And then I met some person, and he said to me, "Forget about being Rubinson. Return being again Ginaite. And what I can help you," and he is a Canadian in Ottawa, "what I can help you, prepare a lecture. They will pay you a little bit for the lecture. And they will buy you." And it lasted a month until I could prepare a lecture. And I prepared the lecture, and it was a very interesting lecture. First of all, they paid me for the lecture $300. So suddenly I became a millionaire. And then after this, he said to me that he has an acquaintance in Toronto. he thinks that he is teaching in York University. He will write him a letter. And I got an answer that the York University can cover the expenses of my coming from Ottawa to Toronto, and I shall get a seminar, and altogether they will cover the expenses and pay me $150. And they will see. They don't promise anything. So I called to University of Toronto and I asked if they would be interested in a lecture. That okay, how much do you want? $150. That okay, $150 because so already I earned $300. And one person in Toronto, Lithuanian, a pure Lithuanian, said to me, listen, you can stay with me. And I prepared when I was preparing the lecture, so this person was from the University of York, talked to the not to the dean, but maybe they will hire me for one lecture, only one course, $15,000 a year, maybe. So he said, okay, we will try, we will see what she is. Then he changed the mind and came to him and said, no, we are not hiring her. If she wants to come, but I didn't know this whole story. If she wants to come to a lecture, one lecture, it is okay. But he's not hiring. Or I will think about it, I am not sure. He said, the chair, it was the chair of the department, not the dean. So I got a letter for him, you know, your English is not so good, maybe don't come with a lecture. I will talk, maybe they will take you, I will talk to them, but don't come with a lecture. So I said, no, I am coming with a lecture. Whatever it is, I am coming with a lecture. And I came with a lecture, and I lectured about consumption. You know, I formed about the consumption in the Soviet Union. And it was my specialty. It was my research, my doctorate, everything. And after the lecture, the chairman said, congratulations, you are hired. But it was in February. Yes, it was in February next year. And we came in June to Canada. So from June to February, I was only crying. And I thought that my life in ghetto was better than now, than in Ottawa. Because, most likely because I was young in ghetto. And I did not think what to expect. And here, the third time to begin everything from nothing, from zero. And the other department, political science, hired me also. So I had $30,000 a year. So I thought, such a big salary, my God, where to spend the money? And my sister said, calm down, you don't have furniture, buy something, and sofa, or something. No, I said, I am going to Israel to see my friends. I said, you are crazy. You know how much it costs? I don't care, I said. The sofa will not run away from me. I have the job, I have 15 and 15, 30,000, and I'm going to Israel. So this was the new beginning. So my conclusion is the life is not easy. It's a very difficult life, not only as a survivor, I would say, but all the periods of my life. But this is a life you cannot change. This is a reality, and you have to keep going. Thank you very much for the interview.
And thank you for sharing your life memories.
So it's terrible, my English, and terrible everything.
Very good.
Yeah, so that's it.